And somebody who now needs little introduction after a speech, the Charles Perkins oration last night that was given a standing ovation in the Great Hall of Sydney University, which is doesn't happen that often, to a packed house. But it was a speech that was incredibly precise, incredibly detailed, incredibly analytic, and underwritten by consummate experience and passion and commitment. One that was described rather bizarrely by the Sydney Morning Herald today as a firebrand speech by the now firebrand Marion Scrymgour, who has now since become, this morning she was a firebrand, and this evening apparently on PM she's now been branded by Mr Rudd as public enemy #1, which is kind of, she's our outlaw, I guess, of this exhibition. So Marion, and Marion again is a friend of King's Cross, and she's sort of been adopted locally as our local politician. So thank you, Marion, it's an honour to have you back.
I promise I'm not going to throw any more cat amongst the pigeons. I think I've caused enough angst with the truth, and it's always, when you tell the truth, not many like to face the truth or to hear it, and certainly to be told that I am not representing the views of my people. And when I say my people, I don't just say Tiwi people, which is where I come from. I include every one of these wonderful people, whether they're from Wirrpanda, as I said last night, to Mulkun in the centre. And certainly last night's talk highlighted that I'm not only a saltwater person, but I certainly have my origins in the desert. And for me, it's straddling both of those worlds. But because of my education, it's that ability to tell that story, to get our people's story out into the wider world. And if it means I upset a number of people with the truth, well then so be it, and I stand by what I said last night, which I thought was pretty well factual and had done a pretty good analysis, I thought, but not many of my political friends think so. But that's not what I'm here for tonight. And certainly it gives me great pleasure to be here. And as Minister for Arts in the Northern Territory, one of the great pleasures that I have, not only on a personal level, but as the Minister, to go throughout our wonderful territory, to actually sit down with artists, with their dedicated coordinators. And can I acknowledge Andrew Blake, who left my great electorate of Arafura and is now working with the fantastic Yolngu people in East Arnhem Land. But to go around the territory, to be able to meet with artists, sit down with artists, to see the culture, the stories that live and are still alive out there, and to be transformed and put onto these barks of telling the story. And certainly Mulkun, and acknowledging Mulkun Wirrpanda and the work that she's done and on display here. Mulkun, as we know, is a senior female artist for the Judi Japul clan from Butchby, and I hope I said that right, Mulkun, and I'm sorry if I didn't. Mulkun paints Judi Japul Milkju, right, which is a sacred design that depicts her land at Wirrpanda. As the eldest and most knowledgeable of her clan, she is acknowledged as a leader. Mulkun is one of the few Yolngu women to have this status. Mulkun Wirrpanda is the classificatory daughter of the great Yolngu leader, Dakia Wirrpanda. This exhibition is an inspiring story of remembrance and healing, and a story of two laws, two cultures. The exhibition and accompanying seminar, held on the 23rd of October, is set against the backdrop or background of the Howard government's abrupt national emergency response to the Little Children Are Sacred report into child abuse in Aboriginal communities in the Northern Territory. The legislation, as we heard David speaking before, includes a total ban on consideration of cultural background or customary law in sentencing. In 1933, in remote northeast Arnhem Land, Dakia a Yolngu elder for North East Arnhem Land, was found guilty of spearing a policeman, Constable McCall, who had chained up his wife. This was Dakia's land, and that was his law. On advice from missionaries, he went to Darwin to explain his actions and his people's way to the Northern Territory Supreme Court. Dakia's controversial murder trial drew national and international attention to the treatment of Aboriginal people in Australia. He was sentenced to death. An appeal to the High Court made this the first case of an Aboriginal Australian to be heard in that court. The court's decision overturning the jury's verdict and the judge's sentence affirmed the right of Aboriginal people to a fair trial in Australia's court. The case, however, ended in tragedy for Dakia and his family. Within 24 hours of his release, Dakia vanished. 70 years after his disappearance, Dakia's body has never been found or laid to rest. His descendants have taken the steps to restore his honour. In June 2003, and there's a display on the TV out there which tells the story, the Wirrpanda family held a wukati or burial ceremony in Darwin to liberate his spirit and cleanse those involved in his death. The ceremony is part of Yolngu law and resolves a conflict between tribes that have wronged each other. In 2004, a Makarrata ceremony was held at the Supreme Court, Darwin. This exhibition takes up the struggle for equal justice. The tragedy of Dakia's life and disappearance occurred during the Commonwealth's first intervention in the Northern Territory between 1911 and 1978. That struggle for equal justice continues today under the second intervention. As well as abolishing customary law considered in sentencing, the government's response is based on narrow punitive ideology rather than any genuine attempt to resolve those problems that we've seen for many years. In the arts, represented here this evening by Mulkun and her work, we are witnessing the systematic weakening of the Aboriginal arts and craft industry in the Territory through the abolition of CDP. And it would be fantastic for everybody here tonight if you could take the time to talk to the artists, because whilst people think that CDP is of not any value, it really is going to gut those art centres. And I remembered sitting before that Senate inquiry in Canberra and asking every one of those senators, how many of you people sitting behind this Senate table have Aboriginal art hanging off your wall? And they all put their heads down. I said, because I said, you have the art, but in terms of supporting those artists and the economic drivers that art industry provides, not just for the artists, but every single one of these artists have extended families that sit behind them, that they look after. So it's not income that, you know, in some areas, yes, we have problems, as I said in my speech last night, but the way to address those problems is not the approach that has been taken at the moment. The way to do it is to work with Aboriginal people. We talked to, and I was talking to some child protection experts today, and they were saying children are the experts when it comes to child protection. If you want to know, let's talk to children and get those solutions. These people are the experts. They know what is best for them. And our people have been saying that for a long time. And as I've said, Aboriginal women have been saying for a long time that there needs to be better solutions. And there's just been continual lip service. So it does give me great pleasure to launch this. I urge you, again, to talk to the artists, that it's not just me saying that the abolition of CDP is going to gut those art centres, but the very artists here will tell you just what that impact will be on those communities and that industry. And I think Australia will be the more sadder if we lose the beautiful artwork that we see here, because it's not just about the beautiful artwork, it is about that culture surviving. It's about the stories that our people continually need to tell. So thank you, Mulkun, and I hope it goes well.